Consider this: a billionaire can commit serious crimes, flee the country, and continue living comfortably abroad while thousands suffer because of his actions. Meanwhile, an ordinary citizen misses a single tax payment and can lose his home. This imbalance raises a serious question. Do people become corrupt because they gain wealth and power, or do the corrupt rise more easily in systems shaped by inequality? Corruption isn't rare. We hear about it almost every week, whether it involves a government official or a private organization. But this issue is often overshadowed and brushed aside for larger global conversations about peace and development. In regions like India, Asia, Africa, and Europe, nearly half of all workers consider corruption and bribery acceptable during an economic downturn. In fact, India scores only 38 on the Corruption Perception Index, which means that people consider the government corrupt to the point where it can't deliver justice. The problem really is that severe. In India, we are familiar with cases of powerful business tycoons who scammed and laundered money and continue living abroad peacefully. Their actions destroyed companies, wiped out employee savings, rendered them jobless, and shook entire sectors of the economy. Yet, some of these individuals still continue living abroad safely and peacefully, claiming that they are victims of political targeting. Corruption exists everywhere, but it doesn't impact everyone the same. For the poor, it means injustice, debt, and lost opportunities. But for the rich, it's a tool disguised as strategy or success. And corruption isn't confined to any one region either. It has a passport. The Panama and Pandora papers revealed exactly how politicians, billionaires, and organizations hide their money in tax havens and shell companies abroad. These investigations uncovered secret transactions, offshore empires, and the systematic exploitation of international financial loopholes. Together, they exposed a harsh truth. Those with power often use the system to protect themselves, while ordinary people are left to face the consequences. And these are all instances of private companies and individuals scamming and laundering money. And one would think, surely governments would be better and wouldn't try to steal from their people, right? Well, the reality is much more grim. Just look at the 1MDB scandal. Yes, that's the name of the scandal. A state backed development fund in Malaysia which misappropriated $4.5 billion. And the former Malaysian Prime Minister was himself accused of receiving $700 million into his own personal bank account. Ironically, some of this stolen money even funded the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, a movie about greed and corruption. But corruption doesn't only exist in news headlines either. It lives closer than we think. Was there ever a time you needed to pass some notes beneath the table to get a task done more quickly? Perhaps a police fine, some entrance paperwork, or even a license registration. We convince ourselves that it's innocuous, that it's simply the way that it is. But every time we do so, we end up supporting the very system we profess to oppose. Corruption doesn't start with lofty positions, it starts with little justifications. It doesn't always sit in parliament or wear a suit. Sometimes it's the individual who crosses the line because they know someone. Sometimes it's us when we refuse to speak up because it's too awkward to do so. But even in dark times, hope shows itself. Just take a look at September 2025, when Nepal's youth confronted their government. And what did they oppose? They stood strong against the government who wanted to silence their protests against corruption by banning their access to social media. They took to the streets and online, chanting, sharing videos, and demanding change. Ordinary students became extraordinary, proving that corruption not only survives but thrives when people stay silent, and that even the youngest voices can make giants of greed stumble. If they can start by fighting corruption on the streets, then we can surely start rejecting it in our daily lives. Corruption is a reflection of our silence as much as it's a reflection of the weakness in our systems. We tell the powerful they can do so every time they break the law without facing any consequences. However, even the strongest barriers of greed begin to crumble when the youth refuses to remain silent and the common people demand honesty. Money talks, yes, but power whispers only until we make enough noise to drown it out. And that noise starts with us. We, the youth, are not just witnesses to the future, we are its architects. If we want these systems to change, we have to raise our voices until they can no longer suppress us. We must challenge what's broken, question what's unjust, and stand together to become the generation that finally breaks this vicious cycle. By making a commitment to combat corruption, we not only mend today's systems, but pave the way for a more equitable society of tomorrow where conflict is decreased, communities are lifted out of poverty, and trust is strengthened by a transparent governance. Corruption isn't just a legal issue, it's a moral crossroads. If we allow it to grow, it becomes the language of society. But when we resist it, we reclaim the possibility to a future where power is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. By making a commitment to combat corruption, we pave the way for a more sustainable, equitable, and stable society of tomorrow. Thank you.